Hi, I'm Rachel Stevens, a senior analyst with RedMonk, and I'm here today to quickly share some thoughts on what's happening at the PagerDuty Summit. One of the things that we've been talking about and tracking at RedMonk is the convergence of what were previously fairly distinct market segments. And we've seen in a lot of cases that adjacent spaces are starting to collapse in on one another. And in the case of PagerDuty and the incident management space, we've seen some evolutions that are interesting and definitely are clear and evident at the summit. So we've seen things like monitoring starting to intersect with alerting, and we see alerting moving into the remediation space. We see remediation starting to look for sources of automation, and all of these adjacent categories are running into one another. And in the case of PagerDuty, this is their first summit since they've acquired Rundeck. Rundeck is a company that does runbook automation, and PagerDuty acquired them in September 2020. And this is one of the epitome use cases of this converging trend where we see the alerting and incident management space moving into this auto remediation space. And one of the major announcements of the summit was the announcement around runbook actions, which is a way that teams can help auto remediate issues as part of the PagerDuty core platform. One of the other announcements that is an example of this trend is the announcement of Service Graph. Service Graph is a tool that will help teams better map their technical dependencies and visualize the connections between their services and the teams that own those services. This visualization and understanding of dependencies definitely starts to enter into that problem space that a lot of the monitoring and observability tools are also hoping to solve. So another interesting place where the adjacencies are starting to move together. And just as PagerDuty is kind of moving into adjacent markets, it's also interesting to watch their move into new personas and moving beyond that traditional DevOps use case that they're so well known for and into other areas of the organization. They've been doing this for a while now and trying to bring in business decision makers and leadership teams, things like that. But one of the things that was really interesting about their announcements this week was that they announced a strategic partnership with Salesforce, specifically to help empower customer service reps to be both better informed and also to be drivers of helping inform the organization about potential incidents. So think about customer service reps who are working in a call center. They now have a better ability to communicate about incidents as they are happening. So we can have live information that they can then convey to customers, and vice versa. They can help initiate an incident or start to escalate something if they begin getting notified of an outage. And this is all interesting because it will live within the Salesforce Service Cloud as a native app. So very interesting partnership and moves outside of the traditional PagerDuty ecosystem in terms of both personas and in terms of integrations. So very, very interesting moves there. And one of the things that I think PagerDuty is doing a nice job of as they start to make these moves is to try to choose case studies and storytelling that helps demonstrate their competencies outside of that traditional DevOps incident response role, moving outside of just what they are best known for into other areas. And I think one of the things that was a great story for them was the customer spotlight that they had in their keynote from Fox Broadcasting. And Fox shared the story of their $250 million data center that they built in Arizona. You know, it's such an interesting case study just in the big picture case study sense in terms of this general thumbnail sketch around the company's investment rationale and strategy and kind of moves between cloud and on-prem that they had to consider and all of the different support considerations that they had to make. It was a really fascinating case study at large. But then they had the story about how PagerDuty fit into all of this. And they had a contractor who was drilling a hole in a wall and hit a water pipe. And because PagerDuty was part of the monitoring, not just of their digital infrastructure, but also their physical infrastructure in the data center, they were able to quickly alert that there was an issue. But the cool part was that they were able to map out a blast radius of the flood, not just so that they could figure out where it was physically impacted, but also that they could reroute technical services that was potentially impacted by the flooded areas to try to minimize any latencies, downtimes, things of that nature. I thought this was a really strong case study, and I thought it was great storytelling from PagerDuty and from their customer And so I'm pretty impressed with where PagerDuty's vision is and where they're going. They have a big challenge ahead of them in terms of tackling these adjacent markets, in terms of overall functionality, but also in terms of building the industry's understanding and narrative of what it is that they're doing and matching kind of our understanding of what PagerDuty is to go along with their expanded capabilities. I think a lot of developers in the market at large continues to think of PagerDuty as the company that does their incident response, the company that pages them. But it's fairly clear that Jennifer Tejada and her team have much bigger ambitions than that. And that was definitely on display at Summit.